record's not in jeopardy, no.
Ms. Tozier, come on down, you're
Dan's
next on
going
the
to
Price
talk
is
along.
Right.
He's got about an hour speech for
Yes.
us tonight.
Four score and
This is for an
seven.
approval not required, 2553C. It's on Mill Lane in Yarmouthport. Mr. Ojala, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Dan Ojala, I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping an abutter, Emlyn Grise, out, and Mr. Hulbert with a simple division. This is an unbuildable tract of land that showed up on a much older Down Cape Engineering plan. It's basically all salt marsh and just a little strip along Mill Lane, which is a town way. And so what they desire to do is convey off this piece. Emlyn owns all the land across, and she's been working with the current owner to do some Phragmites removal and kind of clean up the some of the invasives. So she just wanted to have it for her own, so he agreed to sell it to her. And so we're dividing it into two pieces, an A and a B. Both unbuildable. These are the simpler forms where the Mass General Law allows you to endorse it as approval not required, as long as there's a note on the plan that says that they're not separate buildable lots, and that the note there clearly states that they're not separate building lots. And it's clearly shown that there's salt marsh as well, so no one would buy it thinking it's a building lot. So that does deserve endorsement, we believe. We located a bunch of monuments. Everything checks out nicely with the road layout, put it on state plane coordinates, and nice clean division. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Any feedback?
No, just to let everyone know, the town currently does not have a town surveyor. Doug Rock is retired.
Wow.
So I looked at it, and I didn't have any issues with it.
I'll ask you about town surveyor position later, so we don't tile up the board. Have any board comments? This is pretty cut and or dry.
Could I ask, I see what's being done. Hulbert is on both sides of Mill Lane up to that intersection with Water Street. And that sort of consolidates both property, both owners here on Mill Lane with, you said that was Emlyn Grise?
Yeah, the plan is to convey the piece that's opposite Emlyn to her, and Mr. Bupart will keep the part that's opposite him. So it just kind of cleans up, so the person that's on the other side of the street owns the land.
So it's just a matter of convenience.
That's all, yeah. It's worthless land, pretty much, but only in that she likes, enjoys the wildlife, and, it's nice to be able to call it hers, and then she wants to go for some invasive, the invasive vines tend to grow up, and she's got to go get his permission every time she wants to trim them, so they just figured it'd be cleaner if she owned the fee. She wouldn't have to go back to them every time she maintains it.
That strip of Mill Lane was underwater on one of our high tides.
Yeah, very exciting.
High tides this past winter.
Yeah.
I have no further comments. Thank you.
Joanne? Yep. No? Norm?
Nope.
Tom?
All set.
Okay. Call for motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, motion to endorse A&R Plan number 2553C dated December 20th, 2019.
Second.
Second.
Any other comments? Seeing none, hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Here we go.
Thank you very much for your time.
If you want to sign the Mylar, Dan can take it with him, and then we'll sign copies of the plan after the meeting,
Okay.
or you will.
Okay.
Here's the
Why don't we go on to accessory dwelling units? ADUs. The initials are going to drive us crazy.
So what you find in your packet here today is also, there's a couple things in here. One of them is just a summary of the zoning amendments for the 2019 annual town meeting. Typically, this is something that I put up on the town website and kind of advertise so people get a general idea of what we're proposing to do versus trying to read the convoluted articles that we all have. So if you guys are okay with this, that's something that we would put out on the town website. Also, you'll find in your packet is a memo that identifies the different zoning amendments broken down into the articles that we agreed to at the January 2nd meeting.
Sorry.
Thanks, Dan.
Which item are you talking about putting on the web?
I'm sorry?
The first page?
Well, there's a couple things. The first page, one of them is just just the summary page, and then it would include all the articles.
Okay.
I think when we all read the articles, it's very hard to know exactly what is being changed, because it's kind of like a contract addendum. If you don't know the original, it's really hard to follow. So this summary kind of just puts people in perspective. I also include the red lines on the town website, too, so if people want to get into the level of detail for some of the red lines that are included in here, that they have the ability to do that.
At planning on Monday, we had some discussion on this, and they were very, planning was very, not planning, but housing was very appreciative of the work that went into changing this.
Good.
So it's, and they were reviewing both the memorandum and the summary.
Great.
Kathy, CEDC meeting, they're going to spend the next 2 meetings, they're going to be discussing the accessory dwelling unit issue, and probably will come out with some comments on it. One of my questions is whether I should recuse myself from those sessions when they're talking about that, or can I listen in? I can't vote on it, I'm sure.
I don't think you need to recuse yourself. CEDC has a planning board member. I mean, you certainly can participate. Kyle did send me an email today. I guess they were looking for me to be there at the meeting on the 28th at 4:30 to talk about the accessory dwelling units. And I was going to mention it later under staff comments of whether anyone was interested in coming along with me, as Norm will be there and can kind of answer some questions as his role as planning board member. I asked whether they were just interested in the ADUs, and it sounds like that, but we might want to include some information, and I don't know how much you've provided to them on the signage and some of the other things that we're
Very
doing.
brief, very brief.
Okay.
I don't know if that seemed to be the only one that they zeroed in on.
Yeah, that's kind of what Kyle was saying, too, it was the ADUs.
Rather odd, but it just struck me as odd that CDC would want to do about the ADU, but I thought they'd want signage, but what do I know? There we go.
They might,
I do
might
have-
still.
This is a great one-sheet. Are we going to print this out for town meeting, or I don't want to waste the paper the town is going to do? Should we?
Well, I think town meeting is going to be done a little bit differently this year. And this is, I may need your expertise on paring down some of this language, my friend, because they want to include a little brief explanation within the warrant for each article. So people, when they get the warrant, they can look at it and read it and get a better idea, versus all the different Board of Selectmen meetings and zoning and public hearing meetings. It would be really hard for someone to keep up on all of the different changes that are going on. So they're trying to get that information out a little bit better. I don't know if you had seen the packet from the Board of Selectmen meeting, Tom. I don't know if you were there, but they did have some suggestions on things to improve getting the word out to people before town meeting. And they also were talking about doing zoning in the fall
Nobody's going to show up.
versus just to kind of break it up a little bit.
Would you include the red line in the explanation?
No.
But see, well,
No, I think it would be a case of if somebody reads it in the warrant, as long as they know, well, further information's available on the town website for all of this stuff, they can dig a little deeper if they want to, and we'll have the red lines on the town website.
Before our meeting started, Brad was making a comment about those suggestions that were before the selectmen last night. And I think his comments should be heard by them. Brad, you have a different perspective than the people that I was listening to last night at that meeting. And I think your input would be welcome to that.
I'll email off a couple of them. I'm afraid that what Tom's referring to is, I'm afraid if we do separate it, which is fine, and I can understand the time constraints on everybody, and zoning is boring and long and all this stuff, I don't know if we'd get a quorum.
We have no quorum.
yeah, that's the downside.
We have a quorum of at least 100.
No.
0. You guys could be quorum.
No minimum.
I
Yeah.
thought we had a minimum of 100.
They did away with it unless they were proposing to change it with the charter
They mentioned
changes.
it last night, there was no quorum.
Yeah, there's no
That's why
quorum. If you look at the certified articles, it says quorum 0.
Okay,
Yeah.
then there'll be 18 of us out there going, okay, we could probably get anything through.
I don't think zoning in the last few years have really taken a significant amount of time. It's only when we had a major initiative like the VCOD where they specifically did put us on a special town meeting in the fall, which worked out really, really well.
Well, we shall see. There we go. All right. Nice one sheet. I liked it.
So basically, they're presenting 5 different articles, and this is something where we kind of need to solidify this tonight because I need to finalize the articles for the Board of Selectmen. They're closing the warrant on the 29th, and the Town Administrator's Office is looking for final information, hopefully by close of business on Friday. So what we have is the five different zoning articles. Briefly, the first one's on the accessory dwelling units, the second one's the signage, the third one's the outdoor entertainment, the fourth one's boat storage, and then the last one is the miscellaneous amendments that's related to stormwater, building height in the VCOD, deleting the moratorium on temporary marijuana establishments, and that modifying the definition of outdoor recreation. So what you have in your packet is all of the actual articles, and the articles obviously include amendments to other sections as appropriate in order to reflect the changes in the main section that we're having. So the gobbledygook of the articles is a little bit harder to read with regard to the dwelling units, but then the red line is included. The red line that you have in here actually does change the name from accessory apartments to accessory dwelling units, and it also eliminated that washer-dryer hookup, and that's the only change since last time. And this red line is what was used to develop the article.
So what do you need from us? Do you need a motion to approve these 5 to go forward?
I just think it's a consensus at this point, as long as you guys understand that these are the 5 articles that are going to be listed on the warrant. And I also need to, we need to talk a little bit about the public hearing, which I think we tentatively had talked about February 20th of having that.
Let me just do this first.
Yep. I'm just saying I need to know so that I can write the public hearing notice for that.
Are we all in, I'm not asking for your approval of whether you approve of each article. We'll discuss that after the public meeting. Do you approve the fact that we forward these 5 to be published in the warrant?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yep.
There we go. And we can take up the regular stuff after we have our public meeting. And now you'd like to do the public hearing on the 20th of February.
That's what I'm thinking. We typically do it that second meeting in February.
That's during February vacation
It is.
week. So I know some of you, I know none of us are laden with children that much, but maybe grandchildren. You guys all gonna at least gonna be here for 4 of
Be
you?
here?
Yep.
No problem.
Okay, yeah, good. There you go. Thank you very much, because that's one we can't miss.
How is that going to work with the fall town meeting? Do we still have a cutoff date?
It hasn't been approved yet.
Well, I'm just
Right,
saying, I mean, in the event that they do, that means we're still a work in progress with
No, I
zoning, right?
think this town meeting is going to be
May.
what it is, and I don't think this fall we'd have any zoning. The problem is it would bring it a whole nother year.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's possible. I think zoning is just, needs to be a little bit more flexible than once a year change, depending on what's happening. So I don't know whether there's any option, like if you had a great project or you needed a zoning amendment for something, or somebody petitioned something, I think you could have the opportunity to deal with that at annual town meeting.
Okay.
They're just trying to keep it down to 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the petition articles would be after the zoning articles. So any petitions would come under that second meeting.
I know sometimes petition articles can really force the clock. I mean, so I've forgotten how many signatures you need to get a special within the town meeting. That happened a few times. To get a special meeting within the town meeting, that's happened a few times
Oh,
over
I've
the
never
years.
had, I know that the signatures are significantly more for a special town meeting petitioned article than it is for the annual town
Do we
meeting.
know the number of articles being proposed?
Right now, it's at, I think 46, but I already know of at least 6 that are probably going to go off or be consolidated into
There are a
other
number of
stuff.
placeholders that even
We
the
have 2.
selectmen last night was saying might be scratched
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be less than 40, 35, maybe, 36.
So, starting at 5:30 on February 20th, public meeting, public hearing,
Yes,
public
yep,
meeting for us?
yep.
Okay.
So I can work up the public hearing notice based on these articles. That's why it's kind of like, doesn't, obviously we know we might change it depending on the input you receive and that type of thing, but the general concept is what I'm looking for approval for. It sounds like you're okay. Just briefly, the signage change, just some very brief things to make the language consistent. Electronic message centers, sometimes it says electronic messaging center, so we're just kind of making that consistent. And then there's a couple references to some other sections that we need to be sure that it was referencing the right section, either from a previous change that had made or some proposed changes that we're making here. So very minor changes on the red line from last time, and then that information was taken and converted into the article, zoning article number 2 that you have in your packet. The third article is the entertainment, and that really is pretty straightforward. It's basically just adding a note into the use regulation table for B1 and B2 zoning district to allow it by right for bands and stuff as an accessory use to an allowed business within a B1, B2, as long as you get the entertainment license. So that hasn't changed at all. It's just been converted into an article. The red line, again, is in there. The red line includes the temporary outdoor recreation change, but that's actually been included in article number 5. Article 4 just has to do with the boat storage. It's adding that one extra line about lawfully registered boat stored in a residential lot. And then we added that comment with regard to fire safety that Tom mentioned, and eliminated the reference to the United States Coast Guard. And instead of saying valid, it included lawfully registered.
I heard about that.
You heard about that?
I heard about that from, I congratulated both Tom and Joe for that, for A, striking United States and adding in lawfully, and then you put in fire. That was, forget just parking as the
I
fire.
think Tom
That was-
Barron mentioned that.
That was good.
So that's pretty straightforward. And then article number 5 is our miscellaneous amendments that we always have, where we added the reference in there for a new section for stormwater management that just references the town's stormwater management regulations, changing the building height in VCOD in order to exclude those ancillary things like chimneys up to 4 feet in height, deleting that moratorium, and then modifying that language on temporary outdoor recreation to eliminate the 9-day consecutive limitation, and also expand the definition a little bit more to include some of the ideas that we had for the drive-in site. And that's it.
That's it. Okay. Thank you. One and all. Meeting minutes.
I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, I think ADU is going to be the toughest one. Everything else should sail through.
Yeah, I think we might be finding that it's the opposite, where people are coming where they want it to be even more lenient,
Yeah.
you know?
Everything you've been reading in the paper alluding to affordable housing and creating more units, smaller lots, I think that's the general trend.
Right.
So that, I think what we've amended just falls right into that.
I think it's a great first step. I think people would feel very comfortable with if you're on the other side of the table. So it's kind of trying to balance multiple interests.
I do feel it's going to bring more units forward.
All right. Minutes of December 19th, 2018. Looks like we
We're
can
good.
pull a quorum here.
Yeah, we're good.
I read these. I didn't see anything that jumped out.
I'll move that we accept the minutes of December 19th, 2018.
Second?
We have a motion, a second. Any other comments? Seeing none, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Abstain, abstain, sorry, couldn't get the word out.
Tongue twister.
I wasn't
We know what
present.
you meant, Tom.
I wasn't present. Yeah.
And on this one, I've got to abstain on this one. We have a full quorum on this except for me.
No, we don't.
Make a motion on January
don't.
2nd minutes, 2019.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments? One comment I have, it looked like a good meeting. I'm sorry I missed it. Call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and I will abstain. So it's a 401 vote. Glad Chris made it, I'm sorry I missed him. Good comments. Board of Appeals agenda decisions.
Yeah, been sending out stuff.
Committee updates from board members, besides what were in the minutes. Anything new in the last 2 weeks?
Not much going on.
Okay, thank you. Board member items. We all know we're going to be here on the 6th and the 20th. Hopefully between that time, we'll all be Super Bowl champions. Knock on Formica.
Go Pats.
Correspondence, we know about staff updates.
My only update had to do with the CEDC meeting on the 28th, and if anybody was interested in coming along.
You and I jump upstairs right after the February 6th meeting and go sit in with the FinCom people.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's the other thing that I did mention. Sent out a little notice that Finance Committee wants to meet on the 6th to talk about the zoning amendments and to see whether they want to defer to you guys or vote on them or whatever, or provide comment. So after the meeting on February 6th, I think Brad and I are just going to go up and people can comment if they want to.
And this has nothing to do with being on the board for a number of years. We're all planning board members. We're all town meeting members over the decades. The last few years, this has been the first time we've ever had feedback from FinCom or any other board. It's usually, we get up there on the mic and they say, we defer to planning. They've never said boo. This has popped up in the last...
We always, ever since I've been here, I've gone to FinCom, usually with the chairman. We give a brief presentation. Except for the VCOD, it's typically was defer to, I agree. Before that?
Terry
yeah.
Sylvia and Dave Kellogg were not walking upstairs to
Yeah.
FinCom.
We do the same with CPC as well.
Yeah, we're going to there after the,
It's just odd, all of a sudden. It's like amazing.
I agree.
But it's part of doing business.
There you go.
Upcoming meetings we know about, and we will keep an eye on what the selectmen are going to do with the upcoming town meetings. That's going to be amusing.
The only other comment is at some point, we're going to need to meet with the Board of Selectmen. Typically, for something like this where it's not a major initiative, we meet after the public hearing and kind of present everything. So it would be either the last meeting in February or the first meeting in March. So,
Call for adjournment.
Question, maybe one
I'm sorry?
point of question.
Belay that.
Is it too early to think about assignment of what we do for the town meeting?
Yes.
Which items we represent?
We do
you
that.
can think about it all you want. We typically do it as part of the recommendation for the articles themselves. When the planning board formally votes on recommending them, then you guys vote on who would move them and explain them.
Okay, well,
You have your eye on something, Tom?
well, the accessory dwelling units is under the housing, and I'm supposedly the liaison for that, so I thought that I was already pre-selected for that. So I just wanted to clarify. I don't mind. I will, if it happens, I will do my best.
Okay. We were going to sign everything to the person who wasn't here that night, so if you all show up, I'll take your note there that you would like to do zoning amendment number 1. There we go. Thank you for volunteering if we come to that. Now an adjournment.
So move.
So moved.
There we go. All in favor? Aye. There we go. Thank you.